fact, that was.
No more room in hell. The dead will walk here.
What's up, horror fiends? It's your boy Ricky Grimes back at you with one brand spanking new episode of Three Corners of Horror. Today it's another +4. We got a very special guest tonight. Let me introduce to you the horror fiends. Welcome, Kat, to the Three Corners of Horror. How are you, Kat?
Hi, great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for making the time and hanging out with the Three Corners. And of course, El Jefe, JR, the boss. How you doing, sir?
Wow, we're doing an international film, which is up my alley. You know how much I love the international stuff. But, you know, this film was very kind of quietly hyped. Is it one of us maybe too hyped, or was it just a little bit of a slow crawl?
There's a lot
door.
Yo, what up, Joe, the psychologist? Movies that fuck me up. What up, my brother? How are you, man?
So we're doing a Mexican horror movie. I don't know. We'll see if this is going to be one that we're going to really, dig into, or am I just going to have a bone to pick with? We're going to be discussing the 2022 movie HUESERA the Bone Woman. It is an exclusive on Shudder, directed by Michelle Garza Cervera, and it stars Natalia Solian as Valeria.
Let's go around the room. Kat, since you're the special guest, we always start with you first. Initial thoughts. What did you think of this film upon your first viewing?
Initial thoughts. So this was a rewatch for me. I rewatched it today before I came on. But both times, I'm a fan overall. I like foreign films. I like slow burn. I like the psychological element of this one. And overall, I thought the creature design was better than I thought it was going to be. I liked the themes and the story. I really identified with the main character. And all in all, those are like down my checklist. All great things.
Oh, good shout.
Pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. Joe the psychologist, I'm gonna bounce to you right now. I'll save GR for last. I know what he's gonna say, but Joe, I'm curious, man. I know me and you got similar tastes. So what's up, son?
For me, like JR said in the beginning, like this was one that was kind of a little slightly being hyped, and kind of was not what I was expecting. I did want a little bit more. Understood where the writer director was going as far as themes and everything with the movie. I completely got that, but there's slow burn, and then sometimes there's slow burn. And in a slow burn, I like slow burn myself too, but you have to put a little bit more horror just in between there. And when the spacing out in the horror and it's just a lot of story, then you kind of start losing me a little bit on there. But I mean, I didn't hate the movie. I'm just gonna, because before we start getting all discussing, I didn't hate the movie. However, for me, because this was also on one that I was looking forward to, because of the low hype that it was getting. That fucking again, I got to stop watching things for the hype of it.
You say hype. It's weird because I think GR had brought it to my attention, and that's the first time I heard of the film. So I didn't see any of the hype. I just went into it fresh and not really expecting much. It's an hour and 37 minutes, so it's not long per se, but because it is a slow burn, it does feel extra long.
But it was trending on IG and Twitter is the whole thing, and then I saw it on Bloody Disgusting.
Yeah, definitely got the hype around it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was getting a lot of a lot of the blogs and writers were talking about it. So that's what I mean. People were talking about it. They weren't like raving it up like Evil Dead Rise, but it just a lot of people were talking about it. You were seeing here and there, and yeah, again, like it's just like, okay, this must be really good. Like, is it going to be like a sleeper? Like. I mean, obviously, it's not found footage for me to say Blair Witch, but when you get something that got the low hype like this, that's kind of where I'm kind of hoping that I'm going to be expecting again.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this did have a theatrical run, right? Mm-hmm. Before it went on to Shudder. So, okay,
Yep.
This would have been an interesting one to see in the theater, because I think it's really well made as far as even like the effects, the soundscape, everything in this film is really, really well done. JR, son. How about you, man? No, this is the one I've been waiting for. So, Let's see.
All right, for me, I love my slow burns. As far as like there are certain aspects of the storyline that went a direction that I feel like they should have pulled back on, where it kind of swayed a little bit from the focus on the story. Because to be honest, the focus on the story is all about Valeria. It's all about Valeria, and we'll get more into later on into exactly what it is about her. But the first 18 minutes of the film was basically character building on her. They brought in the whole element of, like you have them going up the steps and her looking up, and there's the big statue of the Virgin Mary looking down on her. So immediately I got the religious feel to it. So I was like, all right, so now we get the religious feel. All right, what else is going to happen in this film? The reason I say the 18-minute mark is at the 18 minutes and 51 seconds is where we actually get our first feel of horror in the film. And that's when she's looking across the way, and we see the first of actually a very cool, simple special effect character, and this woman that where me and you talk about the ambiguity. Did we really need to know who she was? Didn't really care for it, but I like the fact that when she showed up, it was during certain peaks of, let's say, an emotional downsides of the character. So yeah, I mean, this film, like I said, I didn't watch the trailer. I did not care to watch the trailer. Wanted to go in basically not knowing anything.
He's learning.
Was it what I expected? No. Would I say the name kind of took away from the film a little bit, exactly where it was going? Possibly. But I think this movie was more about one character itself and the many trials and tribulations she's going through. Yeah,
what was the 18-minute mark you said? When the first
18 minutes and 51 seconds where they show
the woman she sees across the street. However, though, it was a little bit before. Oh, sorry, Kat.
No, no, I was just going to argue that pregnancy scares me. Pregnancy horror, I think, is maybe the scariest kind of horror to me. I would argue I felt the discomfort and the horror setting in from minute one. Like, I was uncomfortable this entire film. So like 18 minutes, that's where like the more traditional horror sets in, but I was uncomfortable entire runtime of this film.
No, you knew what you
it's
you
good
knew
to
where
have
it was
different
going.
perspectives from that.
It does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and you actually, because before you had that scene was where I want to say her name was Octavia.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So before Octavia showed up at the window when Valeria was looking out the car and she saw the person on the porch looking down, and that's what freaked her out. So that was like the little bit, and then you got what you said, which I'll talk about that a little bit later on as to what she actually I thought I saw.
When she sees the people, like whether it's in the window or in other objects or places, that is to me where the film excels, because it's subtle enough but really well made that it's not
a little
heavily...
It follows.
A
little It follows.
Yes, yeah, that's a good way to put it. I'll take that. I like it. Shout out my man Joe. That is absolutely 1000% the exact feeling I'm getting at, because that to me creeped me out. Like, it wasn't no jump scare or anything like that. It's the images that they put in front of you. Like, wait a minute, she's seeing that? What's going on? Like, did I see that? And I think it's really well made in that regard. Like, the images are kind of creepy, and it even though, like you said, it takes a while to get there for certain things, but because of these images popping in, it keeps you on your toes and thinking, damn, what the fuck is going on here? I'm invested. But again, it's horror. It like has a different perspective than we do, obviously. I like that, because horror is all subjective, and everyone finds horror in different things. Like, if somebody's got teeth issues, me and Joe are like, oh my god, we already said this is horrific. I don't, you know what I'm saying? So everyone has their own way of viewing things, and I think this movie did touch on a ton of different themes as far as the horror is concerned. What themes and elements do you guys think drives this film as far as the horror aspect? Kat, I'm gonna go to you first.
So as I mentioned, this ticks a lot of boxes for me, because the psychological element is tied very closely to the pregnancy. Pregnancy horror scares me. Religious horror also scares me. So there were a lot of discomfort elements there. I also in regards to the pregnancy horror, I love when that's paired with home invasion. I think that is one of the most effective combinations of horror tropes, because you also feel like you're being invaded during a pregnancy. There's this body horror element where you feel
But
really uncomfortable, and pairing that with someone actually in your home, I think, is like the perfect visual representation. It's something I think the movie did very well. I wouldn't call this a home invasion movie in a traditional sense, but it does have that element where she thinks that the kind of paranormal creature is breaking into the house. So those were a couple of the big ones. I also, just to expand on the psychological element, the path not taken trope was very present through this movie. The fear of what might have been, and that is something that is very impactful to me. I liked that it touched on LGBTQ plus themes. As pansexual, I really appreciated the whole traditional life with a man being juxtaposed against a punk rock lesbian relationship. That sapphic element I thought was fantastic.
Well, you got to remember too is like this film had a lot of traditional family values that were constantly countered by Valeria. For example, there's that one scene where she's in. It looks like there's having a family gathering, and she's pregnant, and they're actually making fun of her when she used to babysit, and that child fell from her hands, went down the steps, and then basically stood up and looked at her, and they were like, "Oh, that kid's a little bit slow now because of you."
Her family was the worst, by the way.
Oh,
her grandmother was the best.
Oh, yes. Was it?
That was her aunt. That was
her aunt.
But her sister.
Oh no.
Her sister. Well, and even the mother, because the mother threw a shot saying, "You don't want to end up like your aunt."
Yeah, that's messed up.
Yeah.
So, even between the two sisters, they were making the two other sisters go against each other. Yeah, the family was horrible.
No, it was, and it was basically a woman who wanted to have a child to follow the tradition, but the inner demons that she had kind of made her wonder whether she is worthy to be a mother, because motherhood is always, like Kat said, it's a big fear. Whether you're capable or you can be a mother. Now you take this fear she had. Now Raul, not for nothing, he was cool at first, but he actually aided in her falling deeper into depression.
Thank you.
Because that one scene where she wanted to have sex with him, and he goes, "No, the baby," and he got up and walked away. That was the last intimate moment they actually had throughout the whole film.
And what was your next intimate moment very close to that scene?
Octavia.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
you're right,
yeah,
GR.
So this was a struggle she had. This is another element of horror that was in the film, the struggle you have within yourself and what comes out due to it. Because it was a constant battle. Even when she went back to Octavia wasn't sure what she wanted. So even they had their battle, because Octavia was like, "Are you playing with me?" So you have all these personal demons being basically set. And now you bring in this paranormal element into the equation where she's seeing things. Is it tied to depression? Is it really there? I mean, one cool scene I liked a lot was when she went to the I forgot the name of the lady, the spiritual lady, who did the egg thing. Yes, she did the egg thing on her, and then she turns around, puts it in the cup, and it turns into like a spider thing.
Yep.
She's like, "Oh, you have the spider." I thought that was another cool element.
The egg. I'm glad you brought that up. The egg cleansing. Elaborate.
That's it.
Well, the egg cleansing is done a lot as far as, like, I would say, like,
it's to clean out the
dark side of, you could say, even us, growing up, you have people know, we're accustomed to brujas, we're accustomed to santeria. People question whether that's witchcraft, and the egg thing has always been tied to like evil at times, because they check it. Now, the traditional is sometimes if you have the egg and you crack it open and it's either black or blood, there's a bad omen coming your way. So they have a lot of ties. Now, remember, the beginning of the movie is religious. Now she goes to the darker side of religion the side that you cannot go to.
Not the dark side.
Well, to certain people it is though. You can
Not
to
the
certain
dark
people it is.
side.
No,
All right.
remember, even when she
I know,
goes
I know,
back
I
to
know, I
learn the
know, I
film,
know,
yeah.
I know.
But it's the interpretation. Some people view it as dark magic. I mean, rarely do you hear that, oh, dark magic is like the fairy magic.
But
You really don't hear that.
All magic is not dark.
All right, listen, Buruho.
Uh-huh.
But this is another element added to this film. You have to you have a lot. There's a lot of blocks in this film, and I think that's what makes certain aspects of this film flow very well. Now you add the paranormal element to it. Was it really there in the first place? That's a big question in this film. Was it more her?
Before we get into your statement, Joe, I know Kat had mentioned body horror, and immediately I thought of you. Now, that's definitely present in this film. That is definitely
Yes.
element as far as horror elements we were discussing. So, Joe, if you want to break that down or whatever else you want to bring to the table.
Oh no, I got a couple parts
So
on
what up?
this
Let's do
because
it.
the one positive I'm gonna give the movie is that generally when we see like the psychological horror, we generally deal with postpartum. This movie dealt with prepartum. So a lot of it that she was feeling there was a lot of prepartum depression in this one. Like a lot of changes. All the other ones we have seen have always been after they've had the baby. This movie did show a lot of what she psychologically was going through beforehand and the
After.
postpartum one. I'm not going to lie. When I watched the scene where she's laying in bed and the baby's crying and she gets up and the baby stops crying, seriously, I lay there clutching my pearls, holding on, going, did she fucking kill the baby?
Did you think of me
Did she
during
fucking kill the baby? And
Well, not
you're
the clutch and pearls
waiting.
part.
No, but I mean, and I without putting it that way, I literally did grasp on, like, did she just fucking kill the baby? And you're waiting for the scene, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be okay with watching a movie where she actually killed the baby. And she didn't. If you didn't watch the movie, well, sorry for you. You should have watched it. But anyway, but there was a lot as far as what the woman goes through pre and post. The other theme, which was, obviously that for me, she was lesbian, and she, being a Catholic gay man, I completely get where you want to or have to live that traditional life, because I was months away from doing what she did herself before I stopped it. So for me, the movie, one of the elements was the fact that she knew who she was and she became somebody else. And the uncomfortableness, the body transformation, I think that was more cinematography than actually happening to her. It was just as the movie went on, she started realizing more and more. She met up with Octavia. The connection. You saw she had a better connection with Octavia than she did with Raul. And the Raul part, I would say the Raul part gave me a nice little Rosemary's Baby feel to the movie, which I was kind of hoping it was going to go a little bit that way, that Raul was involved in some sort of way. But for me, what this movie was a lesbian who ended up having to go traditional, and she didn't want to be in this. Having the baby is what she's supposed to do. And once she's pregnant, it's literally what sends her on a tailspin in here, because we'll talk about it later, because it ties into her decision in the end of this. But like I said, the prepartum part of it, loved it, because you don't see that a whole lot. You really don't. Rosemary's Baby actually is the last movie I can think of that shows prepartum.
I thought of Rosemary's Baby too.
That's what I'm saying. That's the last one that I can think of that shows you what happens beforehand. When she started going a little bit more crazier towards the end after the baby, we've seen that in other movies with the postpartum. So I did love that. But, for me, the fact that she loved a woman at one point in time and got into this marriage because this is what I had to do. And this is who I have to become. And in becoming so was not who she really was. because the movie ultimately is about her accepting who she really is.
Let's talk about this ending because oh boy, when this movie was over, I was left with like
What?
one of these. Like, what the hell? Kat, walk us through this. Let's give us your perspective on this ending. Set us up.
So I really, really appreciated the end. I had been back and forth on the movie. I really identified it with Valeria as a Valeria as a character. I can't pronounce her name, but I really liked the work that they put into making her feel like a real person. We have a lot in common. It made it unusually easy to identify with her, but the movie had its issues, and I had kind of been, back and forth on it. The end sold me 100%. And the thing that really does it is because I don't want to call it an exorcism, but they have this process where they kind of, excise these spirits, these demons from her. She goes through this like really just trying ordeal with the witches, and so you expect that happy end where the demon is gone and she's put herself and her needs, like she has risked all of that to protect her child because she feels like she's a risk. She goes through this horrible ordeal. We see the physical pain that this puts her in. It's so trying. And then she leaves the baby with the husband that wanted the baby, and she accepts herself. And I think it's really fascinating that this lie, that this image of herself that she had created is also gone when the demon is gone. Like, I loved the visuals there. I loved that we no longer see the bone woman when that's all taken care of, and she gets to go be herself. It's not confirmed that she goes up to live in the mountains, but it's kind of left with the impression that she could go live in the mountains,
The mountains.
do stuff for her. And I thought that was really fantastic. And they didn't hit it too hard on the head, but they got the ending that was actually the happy ending, because I would have been livid if she had just I've seen so many horror movies that have those fake kind of happy endings, where the demon's gone and everything's just okay. The husband's horrible behavior gets ignored, and I'm so conditioned to think of that as the ending that is being built to, that it was so satisfying to see that they actually got the ending that's best for the main character that they've presented to us, and that meant the world to me.
I like how you mentioned a good ending, because I would prefer the baby to stay with Raul than to stay with her, because man,
Yeah.
oh man, like
And
Joe
it's like,
mentioned
even
the
though
baby
she's not
earlier.
a threat anymore, she
No.
didn't want the kid,
No, not at all.
like
Yes, everyone gets what they want. The baby's in safe hands, hopefully, and she gets to go into the mountains with Octavia.
yeah.
Chill the psychologist. Chat me up, brother. This ending, did it tickle your fancy?
Huesera is basically in the Mexican. They heal the bones.
Yeah, I was gonna say that means it's something with the bones, right?
Bone healer. It's a bone healer.
Bone healer.
That's what Huesera is.
Gotcha.
So the movie is basically an allegory of Valeria being broken to accept who she is. As Kat said, in the end, because we actually don't know is what really happened, but ultimately is that she chose to leave and to be with Octavia because she accepted that she's gay. She chose this life at first because it's what she had to do. As you guys said, she left the baby with Raul because it's what he wanted. But the movie is about Valeria being broken down. I think that when she saw the woman across the street was actually her, because you never saw her face. So the broken woman, but not just that. When you had the dance of the broken women, it represented other women. And I, as a gay man, saw myself in there, like people who were like in the situation that she was in. And then, you get out. And she had to be broken in order for her to accept who she really is. And it's not what this life that she'd been living. So, this is one of the great things sometimes when you have a woman direct a horror movie, because you get a little bit of this little passion in there, stuff that guys are not going to realize.
You're not going to relate. And
right. And at least I'm being the three corners, we do have the fourth corner, Lexi, but I can represent some of the parts that I understand a little bit, what women are going through. But it was basically just you seeing Valeria being broken down, because you don't know exactly when she got cursed, like JR said. Was it all in her head? Even though she went through the brujas, and the brujas did their whole entire ritual to exorcise it, but she was basically having to exorcise this person that she became to become who she is. And that's what she chose in the end.
Let's not forget the lead up to her going to the witches. You had the scene where, she's basically with Raul, and he's with the baby, and she's like, "Oh, baby's, she's hungry, she wants milk," and then he wanted to stay home. She's like, "No, you need to go to work." So he gives her the baby, gives the baby a kiss, and completely ignores her and walks out the room. So she puts the baby, eventually she puts the baby down, and this is where you see that you could say final transformation, where basically she had it. She's laying in the bed, the baby's crying. She's not happy with the situation she's in, to the point where her body starts contorting a little bit because she's trying to break. Her true self wants to break out of that shell that she's stuck in. Now, when she finally breaks out of it, in a way, she goes in. That's where we thought she killed the baby. Now, mind you, baby got quiet and she had a good sleep.
Because she put it in the fucking refrigerator.
That's what I took away from this movie. If your baby's too loud, you can drop it in the
refrigerator.
And mind you, it'll live too, mind you.
And it lived. I mean, it was cold in there.
She put it in the freezer.
Anyway.
Hey man, it's either that or that window she thought she'd do it out of.
Right, yeah, but it's the fact that, look at the things she had to go to just to get the peace from the child.
Yeah.
And then she realized that, after going around the whole house, finding the baby in the fridge, which, I'll be honest, I thought she killed the baby. Because when she looked into that one room and she's crying, I'm like, oh God. Now, I expected just craziness all over the walls, I expected extreme horror at that point.
Mind you, at that point, they already had killed the dog.
Yes.
The two things I don't like is killing animals and killing kids.
Well,
so if they would have killed that baby, I probably would have just turned it on. All right, man, I'm not the one.
Because I'm still trying to, for me, I don't, unless you guys know of one, I'm still trying to think of a movie where a baby was killed. So, that's why I wasn't ready to see a movie where a baby is killed.
Well, yeah, we've seen, what's the name? Beelzebub, where they kill a bunch of babies in the beginning.
Oh my God, that was rough. How'd you forget that?
How you figure that one?
We
reviewed that one. Yes, another Mexican film.
Yeah, let's not revisit that.
Right, I forgot about that one.
Oh yeah, but
Kat, wait, Kat, was there one that you?
I had examples, but they're all cheesy B movies.
Which one? Wait, which one? Let's find out.
In particular, I was thinking about Dumpster Baby, but that's not. Shouldn't talk about that movie on the podcast. And then I also thought of Sharks of the Corn. They sure did just kill that kid. And there's that part of you that's like, they wouldn't kill a kid in a fun B movie. And then they're like, no.
There's another one, Feast 2, I believe.
Feast 2.
That was a bad death right there.
Yeah.
Right.
There was nothing they wouldn't do in the Feast trilogy, though.
Fun fact, I played that movie for a friend of mine once. This is before I was all sensitive about this stuff. But I played it. He got to that scene. This was my old roommate. He got up and apologized to me and went right to bed. He's like, I'm not watching this, man.
So he pulled the Adam, what the fuck is wrong with you, and left.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So 1 through 5, you cool with that?
Yeah.
Awesome. So 1 through 5, and any closing thoughts? Anything else you want to add that you may have missed or one of us missed? Floor is yours. Go for it.
Yeah, so I really liked this one overall. Like I said, I had ups and downs with it. The slow burn, I didn't mind from a storytelling perspective, but as a drama, it was lacking some in the other characters. Like we said, it was really hyper-focused on the one character. I acknowledge that worked really well for me because I saw so much of myself in her. But as a movie, it had some definite faults. Otherwise, I thought this was everything that I wanted. It was actually better, I think, than I go into hyped movies with lowered expectations.
Yes.
You almost have to now.
Usually.
You have to now.
So
Yeah, you're right.
I was expecting this to be kind of a flop for me. I was really pleasantly surprised by the narrative. I'm actually going to give this a 4 out of 5. I could go a little bit in either direction, honestly, but the end really, really sold me. So
Yeah, that's what's brilliant about it. Yeah, you could go any direction because the ending to me was really good in a sense where it kind of left it where you guys mentioned, like, did she go back to Octavia or she making her own path? But it's right for her and the baby. That's all I care about. The baby, as long as the baby's safe, that's okay with me. Awesome. Anything else you want to add, or you good?
just like, and on the note of perspective, we were talking about this a little bit ago, but I do like, even though I had a lot in common, the punk thing and the pregnancy fears and stuff, there were a lot of personal elements that I did have in common with Valeria, but I do think that you can see yourself in her no matter what. Especially the lesbian being alone by Pan thing. Like I think you kind of see what you want to see in this. I almost also made some of the same mistakes she made. And it's like there's that just
That's
because
good.
and for me it was more like, I also like dudes. Like this is very tempting, but it was so I saw that she's kind of a mirror in that regard. You see some of yourself in her, and I think that's good character writing. I was impressed.
It was, and in that regard, it's definitely well made. Jr. My boy was good. Here we go. Joe,
Well,
get ready, Joe.
well, this one, I'll be honest. I was looking. This was one of the films this year I was looking forward to. There were a lot of films this year so far that I was looking forward to that were disappointments. Not going in as far as watching the trailer, I did not know what I was expecting. I'll be honest, the first 18 minutes, I'm like, all right, this is going a little slower than I expected.
Oh, and you're the slow burn person.
But the thing
Jr.
is,
subjects us to all this stuff.
no,
he
but
does. He really does.
no, but the thing is, if you take a slow burn where you're actually setting up the world of the character before introducing the other elements in this film, I appreciate that because it's very risky to do. And the fact that the first thing you're introduced now, being Puerto Rican, growing up, religion and basically traditional values were part of our, life, and they were pushed on you. So I kind of understood it from her point where now you're forced to live this certain life that you don't want to live. And that if you buck the trend, you're viewed differently. Before her sexuality was, put on the table, she's already being viewed differently. Then you eventually find out later on everything about her, which I kind of appreciated because they could have went pure horror in every single aspect. Like I said, the times they did the horror was the time she was at her lowest point in the movie, which I liked that a lot because it took her to go into the deepest depression in order to basically push the horror aspect of the movie. Like there's a scene with the crib where Raul invites people to the house and everybody's basically ignoring her. So she goes to the room with the baby, and what happens? She sees a bone woman at the side of the crib that she built herself.
The baby wasn't born yet.
Oh no, you're right. The baby wasn't born yet. No, but she goes in there, and this is to the crib that she put her passion in. And all of a sudden, you see the bone woman break it. I'm like, she only broke it in one spot, but that one spot tore her into pieces to the point where basically she lit it on fire. You could assume she lit it on fire because she was the only one in the room. But what was Raul's reaction? It was more like, what the hell is wrong with you? And then the next cut scene you see is him talking with his mom about, we have to have her committed.
Yeah, but didn't he leave her with the baby anyway, like a few scenes later?
But the baby,
no,
I know, but
later on when the baby is
I would
born.
never.
When the baby, after the baby was born, he left her.
No.
Remember, he was calling out of work a lot though. So he wasn't really going to work.
He had to work, yeah. I get that.
Oh, yeah. But even the scene where she's in the hospital and he wants to give her the baby, she turns around. So there's your, the postpartum depression now starting to kick in on top of the depression she had throughout the whole film.
All right, yep.
Now, for me, it's like, this is a single character driven story. And she did an amazing job. You have very few women who actually captivate and control the narrative of a film, and she controlled it. And you don't see that in too many horror films because the woman is expected to be the final girl, be the hero, this and that. Here you have a person who technically wasn't a hero. She ended the movie not being a hero. She was a hero to herself in a way, but to everybody around her, she was more of a villain.
I think she still made the right choice at the end.
No, she did the right choice, but she would not be viewed as a hero for making that choice.
Yeah, I got
she would be looked down upon by her traditional family, by everybody around her, because basically she abandoned the baby. That's the way they're going to see it. So for me, it's like there's a lot of things in this film that's actually good. The slow burns, sometimes they hit you in certain points. You're like, all right, this scene's dragging too much. But you think, what was the hell is the point of the scene where you could have just jumped to the next scene? But overall, I'm going to give it a 4.
The movie kind of hit a little bit more personal on me, to be honest with you. Part of the thing is, because I know when I talked about this, and I don't know how important it is, but I sometimes say gay, but like I'm actually more bisexual, so it's like watching a person live this life that they didn't want, and it was a life that just because this is what you were raised to be. Especially me, Junior, actually Rick, we're all Catholic. We're all raised a certain way. You're supposed to be this way. It was a movie of somebody who having to finally accept themselves, and considering how things are, and you start looking at things. Like I myself, I'm actually attracted to both. I'm married to a man. I choose to be married to a man. There's a couple of jokes I can throw in there. It'll delay the conversation longer. However, but for me, the movie was just somebody who chose this life because this is what she had to do, and she had to be broken, and all the supernatural stuff that happened could have all been in her head. Like, again, JR said something earlier on that even as I watched the movie, I always thought in there, because first of all, you never saw how she got cursed. You never saw at all how she got cursed.
That's what threw me off.
You never there's even the little hints here and there. You never saw how she got cursed. So this was all self-imposed. So it was her basically, and which Huesera, the bone healer, is her having to actually mentally break herself, and that was then presented to us when the brujas put her in the water. Because remember, when we saw all the other, whatever you want to call them, it was after she went in the water and she came back out. But the other thing is that for me, the aunt was a lesbian. The brujas were all lesbian. So this was for somebody who, questions their own sexuality or going through sexuality issues can go through. So that's where kind of the movie hit me a little bit, So, I mean, only because I was thinking it was going to go a little bit more different is where it kind of messed it up for me. But on the emotional parts, I'm actually going to give this a 4.5.
Reflecting back on it, especially hearing you three, really giving me your honest opinions on the film, it definitely elevates it more to that aspect. But I don't want to just change my score just to change it. So it's a 4, but for my personal grievances, I don't like slow burns as much as everyone else. But that's just me, man. But it's
I'll be honest, my score was lower. It was after talking to you guys, and actually a couple of things being brought. No, a couple of things. Well, we've done this before. I've come into these with lower.
But that's
scores.
what I mean. That's why I say listening to you, it could be a 4. But I want to be honest and say I came in at 3.5. I'm gonna stay there. But
I had
it's a 4.
Cat's perspective in this review helped change my review.
All right, Cat. Now everybody that we have come on the show, we put them through the ringers. So we want to know, what are your top 10 horror movies of all time?
All right. 10 is Repo the Genetic Opera.
That is a fucking random one.
I'm coming out of the gate hot.
That is a random. All right.
That's a Bill Mosley joint.
It's got Paris Hilton.
Yeah, but she loses her face. You can't be mad about
Oh,
it.
she died in a house of wax. I was happy.
9 is Hush.
Ooh,
that
yeah, we covered that
We
one.
covered that
We
one.
need more crossbows in horror. I always say that.
That was a good one.
Yes.
8 is Saw 3 specifically.
Which one was that? Refresh my memory. Which one?
Is that
That
when-
is the one with it's the one where John Kramer dies.
Costas Mandalore is the bad guy.
Yes, kind
Yes.
I
Yes,
think he's
it's a good one.
introducing
of. They're
that one.
foreshadowing it,
And he's-
but
yes,
he's
the
not
next
like,
one,
the
he's-
bad
yeah.
guy. So
Great character, by the way.
I really loved the twists in that one, the interconnectivity.
Yeah.
I kept thinking that like Saw can't give me any more twists that I buy into, and 3 was the last big one. 7 is Cube,
Ah,
the
Cube is a
original,
great
the
one.
1997 Canadian.
I haven't seen that one.
I'm
Cube.
Canadian. I'm a Canadian horror fan.
It's so good.
You seen Cube, Rick?
I've never seen it.
Oh, it's so good.
It's worth watching. It was
I
ahead
may
of
have
its
to.
time.
I may have to watch it now. It's a
Oh,
top
it's
10?
yeah, it's good.
Top
And
10.
they've had a lot of sequels, but the first one was the best one.
Yeah, the sequels were not so good.
No.
I'll stick to the first one.
6 is Train to Busan.
Yes.
Greg.
Man, that one.
Me and Joe just covered that a few months ago. Nice.
It's so
Great
good.
film. Awesome zombie film. I don't like runners, but those
We do not like
motherfuckers
runners.
were awesome.
That's the thing that sold me on Runners. Finally, was Train to Busan,
Yeah.
and then because I was kind of like, this is the exception that proves the rule.
Yeah.
But then I started All of Us Are Dead, and I was like, no, Koreans are just better at zombies than we
Yeah,
are.
that's a
Like,
good series.
Yeah.
That's a good
Yeah.
series.
Oh, so that don't watch Train to Busan 2. It sucked.
no,
But-
it's
was that
not
Peninsula?
good. Peninsula.
Damn.
It was bad. I haven't seen it yet.
I know, I wanted to see
Don't
it.
even bother.
Oh man. All right, there you go, Joe. That answers our question.
I know, but I'm a completionist. I'm still gonna.
We got
watch
no. We still got to cover it. Though. If it's bad, we'll trash it. It's okay.
it. That's true.
5 is actually another zombie movie. It's Shaun of the Dead.
Oh,
Oh, yeah,
of course.
come
my
Doesn't
my
love that
horror
one.
comedy.
Hell yeah, Shaun of the Dead. Let me tell you, I'm a big George Romero fan. Dawn of the Dead is my all-time favorite horror film. And when Shaun of the Dead came out, oh my god, I was in heaven. So yeah, thank you for that one, Joe. Me and Joe are gonna cover
We'll
that
one.
fairly soon. But thank you for that one because Sean needs some love, man.
It does. I like it's held up surprisingly well.
You gotta be into
Also.
British humor though. A lot of people who don't like
Yes.
it don't understand half the jokes in
British
there.
humor.
Yeah.
I love British humor.
I love British humor.
It helps. It
it
goes
does,
a long
it
way
does,
with that
it
one.
does.
Martyrs.
Oh,
The first original?
Not
The original.
seen that.
Yes.
The original Martyrs.
that's the one movie I will never, ever in my life ever watch again.
I've not seen that one yet.
That movie is crazy.
I'm one of the. I might be the only person I know that willingly rewatches Martyrs on a
I watched it-
semi-regular
I watched it-
basis.
I can't
It's-
do
I
it.
watched it 3 times.
I can't do it. Yeah, one thing I will say though, is Martyrs has one of the best
Opening.
opening scenes I've ever seen in a horror film.
It
Hands
and
down.
it got me into French extremism, which is like one of my favorite subgenres of film. So good. 3 is the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh yeah,
before.
Joe. That's how
All right.
this goes.
Hold on. Did you know that on that one, if you rewatch it again, that you actually there's no gore in that movie?
So that's why. It actually this is a defense that I use a lot because I skimmed past it as much as I could. I talk about Saw a lot. A lot of my first like professional horror journalism gigs were just like deep dives into the Saw franchise. I marathon it every year on Valentine's Day. I'm obsessed with Saw. And one of the arguments that I always use is that Saw and Saw 2 are very akin to Texas Chainsaw Massacre in that the editing is very stylistically done so that it cuts before and after the actual bloodshed. You see the aftermath. You don't see the actual infliction of wounds.
There's no bloodshed in Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
It's a lot of
Exactly.
sound too.
And
Wait,
it's
Rick, is it
still-
Hooper or Hopper?
Hooper.
Hooper.
Hooper,
And
okay.
actually, as recently as this March, I'm still seeing it on the goriest films of all time
That's
list,
And it's not.
wild.
even
That's
though
wild.
it's
That's
not
true.
at all.
We've talked about this, and I mentioned this a lot when I do our stuff. is
Yeah.
that Toby Hooper was the master in basically all of the horror, gory shit you saw was all in your head.
I feel like my top 2 are going to be a lot more controversial.
It's okay because
Good.
it's your personal top 10, so
Yeah.
we'll
It's
never.
personal.
No one judges. Trust me. Trust me. Half the films in my top 10, everyone be like, what the fuck?
Mine's too.
Number 2, this one actually hurts to put at number 2. This was my all-time favorite film for the last decade. It was recently unseated last year for my number 1 slot, which we'll get to in a second.
Your number one is Skinamarink, right?
Number 1 is Skinamarink. No, I'd get kicked off my own podcast for that, where there are not Skinamarink fans over there. My number 2 spot goes to The Cabin in the Woods. Love this film so much. It hurts because for a full decade, it was my all-time favorite film, and putting it at number 2 kills me. This is
One of
like
my
the first
favorite
time
characters.
I've done ranking.
What's his name? The
Marty?
slacker.
Yeah,
Who?
Marty.
Marty. Oh
Marty.
my god, when he pulled out the bong. Oh my god. I love
The bong thermos.
I love that
Is like
bong.
one of the most iconic horror
And
And
weapons
what
of
saved
all
Marty
time.
was the fact that he was smoking his own weed the entire time. Never took the synthetic crap that would make him see. Oh man, good. I love that. That's a movie I could watch at any time.
over and
always
over again.
be like invested. Like, oh, yeah. Everyone,
It's so
don't
good.
talk. Cabin in the Woods is time.
And it has some of the best Easter eggs of all time. The angry molesting tree being on the whiteboard.
Yeah.
Just it gets me every time.
Who was your favorite monster in that film, by the way, Kat? Your
my favorite.
villain?
So as much as I do really love the Buckners, as a Latin student, the whole summoning zombies with the dead language was a lot of fun. I
The
loved
zombie.
though Lord Fornicus is the name of the fake Cenobite.
The Pinhead character,
Yeah,
right?
the Pinhead
Yeah.
character.
So
And the fact that they went as far as to name him Lord Fornicus just absolutely cracks me
you
up.
know you're a fan when you know the individual names of each character.
Yeah.
I know Jared loves the merman, man. That's his favorite right there.
I fucking love
Hey,
that
come
shit.
on.
Oh, merman! No!
My number 1 film, and this is like actually the first time I'm publicly announcing my new favorite.
Ooh, we got the
Uh-oh.
scoop of Hall of Fame
Uh-oh.
TV. Let me take my last sip first.
I'll take mine too.
Oh, look at that. We timed that perfect.
My top horror movie of all time goes to Ty West's X. I'm obsessed with that.
Wait, what? But she's a superstar.
Awesome fucking movie. Man. All right.
It's
All right,
so
JR,
good.
shut up.
Yeah.
I
Hold
said
on, wait. Okay, go ahead,
I'm
Kat.
messing
Do
with
your
him.
thing.
Messing with him.
So that's another one. It just hits a lot of personal boxes for me. One of my favorite like underrated tropes is when dancers just snap in horror films. And finding out that Pearl was a former dancer just was like, oh, this is gonna be good. I loved Bobby Lynn as like a side character. I thought it was a great encore cast. I loved my 2 favorite genres are like the French avant-garde extremism and the 70s grindhouse, and to find both of those mixed together in a movie, I've never been so happy.
I love the juxtapositions of like they're filming the porn film, but at the same time, the real shit's going on here. And
Yep.
I mean, as like me and GR, amateur filmmakers, just seeing how, the run and gun filmmaking style of these students and what waits them. Oh man, I just love. That's what I loved about the film so much. Is this cast of characters are amateur filmmakers, and they're getting into the pornography business back when the pornography business wasn't big. And the guys talk about, I want to shoot it all fancy like a movie. Back then, that wasn't unheard of, but that would become later on what it would actually turn into. So that alone, man, good show. I love that film. Did you watch Pearl, by the way, Kat?
I did.
I have not yet. I have
Different,
not yet, so
complete.
Don't
No spoilers. No.
don't.
I
do it.
know,
Don't do
but
it.
what I'm saying is it's completely different film.
All right, so Kat, before we wrap this up, let our viewers know exactly what is you do as far. I know you told us, you mentioned earlier, you do podcasts, and also, you do writing. So yeah, tell the viewers about a little bit what you do.
Yeah, so I'm a horror writer. I have a roughly 10-year career in horror journalism, but the last year or so I've switched to fiction writing. You can actually pre-order my book, Revenge Arc, from my website, catvoleur.com. It is all found footage horror. So
Nice.
that's exciting. It comes out August 1st. Pre-orders are signed. It's full color art, true to source formatting, gorgeous book. I can't thank the art team enough for that one. You can also find out some of my other work. I actually have in relation to this episode and some of its themes, you can check out my article "Witness the Transformative Power of Martyrs" in Off Limits Press, Divergent Terror, the crossroad. Like I can't talk today. The Crossroads of Queerness and Horror. That one's a mouthful. And you can also you can keep a lookout on Dread Central for my article about my recently announced all-time favorite movie, X, called "It's All Disco."
I
It
love Dress
digs
Central.
into the.
You're
They're
on that?
so good,
Nice. Oh man. Whew, that's come on. Back
and they're
before the
coming.
internet, Dread
Yeah.
Central and Bloody Disgusting, Rumor, Fangoria. That's stuff I grew up watching. Well, I can't say grow. I was already old. What am I talking about? You get the point though. Good show.
But yeah, they're having me on soon to talk about queer themes and X, so that's
nice,
exciting.
Nice. Yeah, good show.
If anyone wants to hear me talk more about being kind of gay, that's the place to do it. You can also, I do podcasts. You can check out my horror podcast Slasher Radio. We're in all of the big podcasting platforms, Spotify,
Nice.
Oh, so
iTunes.
that's your podcast?
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
okay.
I co-host. I'm an intruder, but I'm a long-term intruder. So
Intruder, come on, man.
you can always find me there.
Yes, you're good.
And you can check out, I do have a side project podcast currently running. I don't know how long it's going to run, hopefully until this has aired, but it is called the Nick F and Woo Cage Cast. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts. We're a movie of the week podcast, except for it's always Nick Cage.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you
Yeah.
for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a blast.
If
for
you're
joining us.
interested in any of her works, anything she's involved in, we will have the links in the description to this video. So check her out, follow her socials, get her books. I am for sure gonna get me one of. What's that pre-order you said it was? What's the name of that book?
It's called Revenge Arc.
Revenge Arc. Okay, there we go. That's gonna do it for this special episode of Three Corners of Horror. I am your boy, Ricky Grimes. Kat is our special guest. Thank you once again for coming along. JR, Joe the psychologist. With that being said, everyone, please stay good, stay safe, stay healthy, and most of all, watch horror movies. Stay scared.